Evan Cole had always believed that remote outposts were quiet. He had spent years working for the Interstellar Research Alliance, fixing environmental systems and studying alien technology, far from the chaos of human cities. The Vorthai outpost on KL-9 was supposed to be another routine assignment. Cold, isolated, and full of disciplined alien warriors. It was perfect for someone who preferred machines over socializing. But tonight, something felt off. The wind howled across the barren ridges of KL-9, rattling the reinforced door to Evan's workshop. He adjusted the thermal gloves on his hands, wiped grease off his sleeve, and glanced at the glowing panels surrounding him. Everything seemed normal. The pressure seals were intact, oxygen levels optimal, and the power grid stable. He exhaled slowly, telling himself it was just the wind. Then the door moved. It opened. Casually, without warning, Evan froze. The door wasn't supposed to move unless authorized by biometric scan. Whoever or whatever was entering didn't even knock. A shadow appeared in the doorway. Tall, confident, and unmistakably alien, the figure moved with the precision and authority of someone used to command. The Vorthai were impressive in every sense. Standing over 7 feet tall, with scales that glimmered under the workshop lights and ridges along their foreheads that marked rank and status, they intimidated most humans immediately. Evan, however, had spent months around them. He thought he was prepared. He was not prepared for what happened next. The alien in the doorway, Commander Zira, removed her outer layer of thick combat armor designed to withstand plasma blasts. The armor clanged loudly as it hit the floor. Evan's heart raced. She continued, removing her environmental shielding and layered thermal gel packs. Each piece of her gear dropped to the floor with authority, like she owned the room. Evan's mind spun. Humans didn't do this. Humans didn't just come into someone's space and drop everything. Zira stepped fully into the workshop, her scaled hands resting on her hips. She looked at Evan, eyes sharp, calculating, and amused. A smile spread across her face. It was not a smile of malice or seduction. It was the smile of someone who had just made a bold move and expected recognition for it. Evan opened his mouth, trying to form a sentence. Nothing came out. His mind was racing faster than any maintenance protocols or emergency shutdowns he had ever dealt with. Commander, you can't just... He stammered. Zero tilted her head slightly, observing him. I am aware, human. But where I come from, removing one's battle layers in another's space is a sign of trust. A test of character. You are. Interesting. Evan blinked. Interesting. That didn't explain why he felt like he had just walked into a live wire. His brain struggled to translate Vorthai cultural signals into human comprehension. Trust. Character test. He repeated slowly, trying to keep his voice calm. In human terms, this is alarming. Zira chuckled softly, the sound like wind over metallic ridges. Humans are fragile in ways I do not understand. But yes, you may call it alarming. The tension in the room was palpable. The scattered armor pieces, the open doorway, and the alien's confident posture created a scene that could have been mistaken for chaos. Yet Zira's presence was controlled, deliberate. Every step she took, every glance she gave, conveyed authority. Evan had never met anyone like her, alien or human. He stepped back instinctively, glancing toward his console. I should probably initiate a lockdown protocol, he said, even though the thought seemed almost absurd. Zira's smile widened. You may attempt, she said, but my presence here is not a threat. It is an opportunity, a chance for you to prove worthiness. Evan exhaled slowly, trying to steady his racing heartbeat. Worthiness. Was this some kind of alien challenge? He had handled rogue machines, electrical surges, and malfunctioning drones. But this was uncharted territory, Commander. I think there's been a misunderstanding. In human culture, entering someone's private space, and doing what you just did is considered extremely forward, Evan said carefully. Zira's smile softened, though her eyes remained sharp. In Vorthai culture, it is the highest form of respect. To remove battle layers before someone indicates that you trust them. That you consider them an equal, Evan's mind reeled. You trust me? Just like that. Zira shrugged. Trust is earned through observation. You have been here long enough, human. I observe calm, logic, and most importantly, lack of fear. Many others would have panicked. You did not. That is notable. He tried to keep his voice neutral. I'm glad my composure impresses you, Commander. But trust, respect, they usually take time. Layers aren't supposed to just fall off in front of someone. Zira laughed softly, a sound like wind over rocky cliffs. Layers are symbolic, and I am not bound by your customs. You will learn mine in time. Evan ran a hand through his hair. He wasn't sure whether to be terrified, honored, or completely confused. Your customs include dropping all layers in someone else's room? Yes, she replied simply, almost as if it were obvious. If I did not trust you, I would not be here. He frowned, scanning the workshop. Tools, panels, machines, all safe, but his nerves were not. And if I react poorly? If I freak out? Zero tilted her head. Then I know more about you. Fear teaches as much as courage, Yvonne swallowed. He had faced far more dangerous situations than this life-threatening storms. Rogue AI drones, collapsing structures, but nothing felt this personal. He felt exposed, vulnerable not physically but mentally. He was being studied, observed, tested. You're like a walking test protocol, he muttered. I am, Zira said proudly.
And you
are part of it. The sound of wind outside intensified. Dust swirled along the edges of the outpost, rattling metal sheets. Evan glanced at the viewport. The Kale-9 storm was intensifying. He had been preparing the lab for routine experiments, not alien cultural tests. Yet, here he was, standing in front of a commanding Vorthai female who had casually dropped all her battle layers, and was smiling at him as if she already knew he was capable. What am I supposed to do now? He asked finally. Observe, learn, respond. Humans are slow to understand symbolism, Zira replied, still smiling. Do not worry. You are not in danger. You are invited? Invited to what? To understanding. Evan blinked. That was it. That was her answer. She didn't explain rituals, treaties, or customs. She didn't give him instructions. She expected him to figure it out. And in her eyes, he could see pride, amusement, and curiosity emotions he had rarely seen in someone so powerful. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The wind outside rattled the outpost walls, and the scattered armor pieces on the floor seemed oddly symbolic. Each clang represented trust, each movement calculated precision. Each glance a challenge. Evan realized something then. He was being tested. Not by machines, not by systems, not by any protocol he had ever encountered, but by a living, thinking, extraordinary alien commander. He straightened his posture, attempting the calm demeanor he had maintained for months on this outpost. All right, he said slowly. I don't fully understand your customs, Commander Zira, but I'm willing to try. Her smile widened, teeth glinting under the workshop lights. Good. Most humans would have fled by now. You have potential. Potential. The word settled in his mind. That's what this was about. Not fear, not submission, not romance. Potential. Evan exhaled, finally feeling a small sense of control returning. Potential. Noted. Zira's eyes sparkled with amusement. Do not underestimate what observing potential can do, human. Even the smallest actions are recorded in our memory. Evan glanced at the scattered armor again. Each layer represented trust, respect, and a willingness to risk embarrassment or worse in front of him. And though he didn't fully understand, he realized one thing. Zira had chosen to stand here, fully exposed in her own way, to give him a chance. He nodded. I'll do my best, Commander. I promise. Zira's grin was triumphant. Then we shall see, human. We shall see. The storm outside raged on, But inside the workshop, a different kind of turbulence had begun. Not electrical, not mechanical, but human and alien confidence and curiosity, trust and respect all colliding in a single room on a distant, cold world. And as Evan realized that the night had just begun, he knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The day after the unexpected encounter, Evan Cole woke to a chaotic, yet strangely formal atmosphere on Kale 9. The outpost, usually quiet and precise, was buzzing with whispers, quick footsteps, and an energy he had never experienced before. Something had changed. He could feel it in the vibration of the metal floors and the low hum of the power generators, and in the way the Vorthai moved around him differently. As if he had suddenly acquired some invisible status, he rubbed his eyes, still uncertain if last night had been a dream or a cultural nightmare. Then he remembered the armor, the layers, the bold smile, and the calm authority of Commander Zira standing in his workshop. His chest tightened. That moment was real, and its consequences were only beginning to unfold. At the briefing hall, the first sign of trouble appeared. Soldiers and technicians alike were casting glances toward him. Some bowed slightly as he passed. Others whispered in low, serious tones. When he asked one of the engineers why everyone was behaving differently, the answer came quickly and bluntly. "You are chosen, human, chosen? For what?" Evan asked, confused and increasingly anxious. "Commander Zira. She has made a claim," the engineer said carefully. "In our culture, removing all battle layers in a private space is a bond. You are now part of that bond." Evan's stomach lurched. Bond. He had misread the situation, or more accurately, he had understood nothing at all. In human terms, this would be a diplomatic nightmare. In Vorthai terms, it was a declaration that he was now bound, in some way, to Zira. He tried to keep his voice steady. "Bond. I don't. I didn't agree to anything. This must be a misunderstanding." The engineer gave him a sympathetic look. "It is not a misunderstanding in Vorthai culture. But do not worry. She respects your hesitation. You may yet choose how to respond." Evan nodded weakly. He didn't feel reassured. Instead, he felt the weight of responsibility settling on him like a dense, invisible armor. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Every corridor he walked, every workstation he approached, he noticed glances, curious, respectful, and sometimes cautious. Rumors had already spread. Someone even whispered about a video circulating on the outposts. Internal feed: watch before deleted. Human accepts commander's challenge. Evan swallowed hard. Internal videos of alien commanders and human engineers? He felt suddenly exposed in ways far beyond last night's incident. By mid-afternoon, he received an official notice. It was from Zira herself, a request to meet in her office. His pulse quickened as he approached the Vorthai Command Center. The building's exterior was imposing tall spires of reinforced alloy, sharp edges designed to intimidate enemies and command respect. Inside, the hallways were lined with glowing panels, each one displaying critical information: planetary scans, defense grids, and troop allocations. When he entered Zira's office, she was already waiting, seated behind a desk made of polished metal. Her posture was relaxed, yet commanding. Her eyes glimmered as she studied him, and for a moment, Evan felt the same mixture of tension and awe he had experienced last night. "Human," she began, voice calm but firm. "You have been observed, not only by me, but by my council. Your composure, your logic, and your ability to remain calm under unusual circumstances. It is remarkable." Evan nodded cautiously. "Thank you. I think. But about the bond, what exactly does that mean in your culture?" Zira leaned back slightly, her hands resting on the desk. "It means that I consider you an equal, or at least a potential equal. You have shown courage without aggression, calm without submission, and intelligence without arrogance. These are rare qualities, human. Most of my kind would have fled, panicked, or attempted some display of dominance." Evan exhaled. "So, I'm not being forced into anything." "No," she said firmly. The choice is yours. But understand this. Rejecting the bond publicly would insult me and my council. It would damage not only my honor, but the way my people perceive you. That is the challenge you face." He swallowed. "I see. So, it's a test. Not just of me, but of how humans are." "Understood." Zira's smile returned, small and approving. "Precisely. And that is why I came to you personally. Most humans would not have lasted this long without causing chaos or confusion. You are different." The weight of the moment pressed on him, but Evan's mind began to shift. He realized that in his entire career, he had faced dangerous storms, malfunctioning machinery, and rogue AI. But this was different. This was social engineering on a scale he had never imagined daily in cultural protocols. Tests of trust and the delicate balance between respect and misunderstanding, and he was at the center of it. Over the next few days, Evan tried to learn more about Vorthai customs. He asked questions cautiously, observed interactions, and attempted to understand their complex hierarchy. He discovered that many behaviors that seemed bizarre or intimidating to humans were deeply symbolic. The arrangement of armor, the cadence of steps, even the way one held a tool, each action carried meaning, often more than the words themselves. At first, it was overwhelming. He misinterpreted almost everything. A casual nod could signify respect, submission, or challenge, depending on context. A smile could indicate agreement, amusement, or a strategic calculation. And then there was Zira. Her presence alone carried layers of meaning he could barely begin to comprehend. Yet, he began to adapt. He noticed patterns, read body language, and started responding with cautious confidence. His actions were deliberate, calculated, and respectful. It was exhausting, but rewarding. And with each successful interaction, he felt a small sense of accomplishment, a human holding his own in a world designed to challenge everything he thought he knew. Rumors, however, did not wait for him to adjust. The video from the night of the armor incident had circulated widely among the outpost personnel. Whispered conversations, nods of respect, and quiet laughter followed him wherever he went. People called him the human who stood calm, or the chosen one of Zira. The titles were flattering, but also terrifying. He wasn't a hero. He was simply a man trying to survive a complex social environment. One afternoon, as he worked on repairing an environmental module, Zira appeared again. She moved silently, as if gliding rather than walking, and stood behind him, observing his work. "You continue to impress," she said softly. "Not because your work is extraordinary, it is competent, like most humans, but because of the way you carry yourself." Evan paused, wiping sweat from his forehead. "You mean, I'm not panicking?" "Exactly," she said, smiling. "Calmness in chaos. Intelligence and observation. These are rare qualities. You may not understand it yet, human, but my people value them highly." He looked at her, feeling a strange mixture of relief and apprehension. "And the bond. Are we still talking about that?" Zara's eyes glimmered. "Yes, but it is no longer just a personal matter. The council has taken notice. Your actions reflect not only on yourself, but on humanity. How you respond will shape perceptions for years to come." Evan's mind spun. He had never considered that one person could influence the image of an entire species. The responsibility was staggering, yet somehow, he felt an unexpected sense of purpose. As days passed, he found himself increasingly engaged in the Vorthai world. He learned their terminology, their rituals, and their unique approach to problem solving. He observed how respect and trust were earned, not through words, but through actions. And in all of this, Zira remained a constant presence, watching, guiding, and challenging him. One evening, after a particularly intense session of observation and training, Evan returned to his quarters to find another note from Zira. It simply read, "Meet me at the observation deck. Nightfall. Alone." Curiosity and apprehension warred within him. Nightfall on KL9 was a dangerous time. Storms could erupt without warning, and temperatures could drop sharply. But the note was concise, formal, and carried a weight of expectation he could not ignore. When he arrived at the observation deck, Zira was already there, silhouetted against the swirling storm clouds outside. She turned as he approached. The wind carried the faint scent of ozone and metallic scales. "You came," she said simply. "I did," he replied, keeping his voice steady. "I wanted to understand, to learn more about your world." Her eyes softened slightly. "And you have more than most. But now you must make a choice, human, not a decision of technology or repair or calculation. A decision of trust, courage, understanding." Evan hesitated, then nodded. "I will do my best." Zira's smile widened, triumphant but not threatening. "Good, the council awaits your response, but I am already pleased. You may not understand yet, but your actions are shaping the future, not just yours, but all humans here." Evan stared out at the swirling storm, the alien city beyond, and the towering figures patrolling the base. For the first time, he felt the weight of being part of something greater, something that transcended fear, uncertainty, or misunderstanding. And in that moment, he realized survival was no longer enough. To thrive here, he would need courage, intelligence, and the ability to navigate the most complex social and cultural challenges he had ever faced. The night stretched on, the storm raging outside, and Evan understood one thing clearly: the real test had only just begun. The council chamber was massive, intimidating, and unmistakably alien. Evan Cole stepped through the threshold, his human stature almost lost among towering Vorthai leaders, their scales glinting under the chamber's ambient lights. The room was silent except for the soft hum of energy conduits embedded in the floor. Every eye turned toward him, every movement calculated. This was the moment, the official confirmation of the bond with Commander Zira. Evan's pulse quickened, but he held himself straight. He had trained for physical dangers, storms, mechanical failures, but nothing had prepared him for a challenge like this. Words mattered more than weapons. Every gesture, every tone, and every glance would be scrutinized. At the head of the chamber sat Zira, her tall figure radiating authority. Around her were the council members, warriors, strategists, and diplomats. All of them analyzing him with the patience of predators. They were waiting, not for fear, but for understanding. Zira's gaze met his. There was no judgment in her eyes, only confidence and anticipation. She had already seen his potential, and now it was time for the council to see it too. Human. Zira's voice rang out clearly, cutting through the tense silence. "You stand here because you have demonstrated qualities uncommon among your species: calmness in chaos, intelligence in observation, courage without aggression. You are different," Evan nodded. "Thank you, Commander Zira. I appreciate your words, and I understand the significance of standing here before your council." The council member stepped forward, his scales glinting under the lights. "Human," he said formally, "you are presented with a choice. In our culture, the bond offered by Commander Zira is a high honor. Acceptance signifies mutual respect and cooperation. Rejection may cause offense. How do you respond?" Evan took a deep breath. This was it. All the preparation, observation, and lessons in Vorthai culture led to this moment. He had learned the importance of deliberate actions, of measured speech, and of maintaining composure. Now he had to act not just as a human, but as someone who could navigate a world entirely alien to him. "Council members," he began, his voice steady, "I will be honest. I do not fully understand every custom of your people. I do not claim to know your traditions as you do, but I have observed, I have learned, and I have tried to act with respect, courage, and integrity. Commander Zira has shown trust in me. That trust I will honor. I accept the bond, not blindly, but with the commitment to understand, learn, and cooperate fully." The chamber was silent for a moment. Then one by one the council members nodded. Some murmured in approval, their voices deep and resonant. Others exchanged glances, clearly impressed by his composed and thoughtful answer. Zira's expression softened. a proud smile spreading across her face. "Human," she said, "your words reflect wisdom and courage. You honor not only yourself but your species. The Council has approved your acceptance. You are officially bonded." Evan exhaled, relief flooding through him. The pressure lifted slightly, but he remained vigilant. He knew that being bonded did not mean the challenges were over. It meant he now carried the responsibility of representing humans in ways he could not have imagined. After the formalities, Zira led him out onto a balcony overlooking the outpost. The storm outside had calmed, leaving a sky of swirling colors, pinks, blues, and purples blending together, reflecting off the jagged rocks of Kale 9. "You did well," Zero said softly. "Many would have failed this test, human. You have succeeded because you were honest, respectful, and brave. That is rare." Evan looked out at the horizon, feeling a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. "It wasn't easy," he admitted. "I kept wondering if I was doing the right thing, if I was offending someone without knowing it. But I wanted to understand your world, not just survive it." Zira's smile widened. "That is why you succeeded. Survival is instinct. Understanding, that is wisdom. And humans often underestimate their capacity for wisdom." Oh. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the alien landscape stretch endlessly before them. Evan felt a connection not just to Zira, but to a culture that had once seemed incomprehensible. He realized that being bonded meant more than ceremonial recognition. It meant being trusted, respected. And given the opportunity to bridge two worlds in the days that followed, life at the outpost changed, again, but in positive ways. Evan found himself collaborating closely with Zira and her council, offering insights from a human perspective while learning strategies and customs from the Vorthai. The bond he had accepted was not restrictive. It was a partnership. Together, they solved technical problems, negotiated with visiting factions, and strengthened the outpost's defenses. Interestingly, the incident with the armor layers, the one that had caused so much anxiety initially, became a symbol of cooperation and cultural exchange. Other humans at distant outposts heard about it and were inspired. Other Vorthai began observing humans with more respect, curious about their abilities to remain calm, think logically, and navigate social challenges in foreign cultures. One evening, as Evan was repairing a complex atmospheric module, Zira appeared at his side. "You have grown," she said, her voice carrying both pride and amusement, not only in skill, but in understanding. "You honor the bond more than most could have imagined." Evan smiled, feeling a warmth of accomplishment. "I couldn't have done it without guidance and patience." "Patience is necessary," Zira replied, "but so is courage. You have shown both, and that is why you are respected." He glanced at her, realizing that respect in this context was far more meaningful than titles or power. It was earned through actions, choices, and integrity. And in a way, it was more valuable than any recognition humans typically sought, as the weeks turned into months. Evan's reputation continued to grow. Other humans looked to him as an example of how to survive and thrive among the Vorthai. Other aliens treated him with cautious curiosity, no longer seeing him as a fragile outsider, but as a capable ally. The bond with Zira had given him not only protection, but also influence, a rare position for a human in an alien world. Then, one evening, a surprise transmission arrived. It was from a distant human command center. They had monitored the events at Kale 9 and were both impressed and intrigued. Reports described Evan's calm demeanor, successful integration into Vorthai society, and the unusual bond that had been formed. Orders came down commending his actions and advising continued collaboration. Evan realized that his choices had impacts far beyond the outpost. Humanity itself was being observed through his actions. He turned to Zira, who was observing the transmission with a thoughtful expression. "It seems we've made an impression," he said lightly. "Indeed," she replied. "But remember, human impressions are fragile. They must be maintained with continued respect, intelligence, and courage. That is the true test of a bond." Evan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He knew that this was only the beginning. Life among the Vorthai would continue to challenge him, test him, and push him to grow in ways he had never imagined. But he also knew that he was capable. And for the first time, he felt a deep sense of belonging both. As a human and as a trusted ally in an alien culture, as the twin moons of Kael'neen rose over the horizon, casting silver light over the jagged landscape, Evan realized something profound. He had entered this world as an outsider, unprepared for its complexities. Yet through courage, honesty, and respect, he had not only survived, but thrived. He had earned the trust of a powerful commander, the respect of an alien council, and a place in a society far different from his own. And in doing so, he had proven something even more important. Humans were capable of more than survival. They could adapt, learn, and excel even in worlds that seemed impossible. Zero stood beside him, her presence calm and confident, her smile proud. "You have done well, human," she said softly. "More than well. You have exceeded expectations." Evan smiled back, feeling a rare sense of peace. "Thank you, Commander, for everything." She inclined her head. "The bond is not just for one of us. It is for both. And together, we will continue to learn, grow, and face whatever challenges come. That is the way of the Vorthai. And now, the way of our bond." The night stretched on, calm and bright under alien moons. And Evan knew with certainty that life on Kael'neen, his place among the stars, had changed forever. He was no longer just a human among aliens. He was a bridge between worlds, a symbol of understanding, and a living proof of what humans could achieve when courage and integrity met opportunity. The adventure was far from over, but for the first time, Evan felt ready for whatever the universe might throw his way.